We want to jump to CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand, who is at the White House. Natalie, we're still kind of watching the podium there in Orem, Utah, ahead of this press update. What more information are you learning from the White House this hour?
Yeah, well, the president giving some additional information about when he found out about this horrific tragedy on Wednesday, saying that he was with architects as he was designing the ballroom that he's going to be building here at the White House, and his staff came in and announced that Charlie Kirk was dead, and he said he just didn't know what they meant. There's just a state of shock and grief that has overtaken the White House, given the closeness of the relationship between Kirk and the president and his team here, including the vice president. And you could just tell since Wednesday in the president's remarks yesterday at the 9/11 memorial, he's been shaken by this. Kirk, he described this morning on Fox News as kind of like a member of the family. Yesterday, in his remarks at the 9/11 remembrance, he opened with a tribute to Kirk, also announced that he would be awarding him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor. He said, "I have no doubt that Charlie's voice and the courage he put into the hearts of countless people, especially young people, will live on." The president this morning also confirming that he will attend Kirk's funeral. We don't have the details about that, but we expect it to be held in Arizona, where Kirk lived and his political group, Turning Point USA, was headquartered. And he said that, that Kirk shouldn't be having a funeral right now, and going on to discuss his impact in turning out the youth vote, the conservative vote last year on the campaign trail, and also, working with him in the years prior. This White House gives him so much credit for helping to cement his second-term victory. And we know he had a particularly close relationship with the vice president, J.D. Vance, who Vance described in a very personal social media account. Vance went to Salt Lake City yesterday to retrieve Kirk's body and deliver it back to Arizona on Air Force Two. And I want to read you part of what Vance said in his statement about Kirk's political assassination. He said, "Kirk exemplified a foundational virtue of our republic, the willingness to speak openly and debate ideas." That's why so many, Errol, on both sides of the political aisle are saying, this assassination really was an attack on democracy. The president asked how he would like supporters to respond to Kirk's death. He said Charlie was an advocate of nonviolence, and that is the way he'd like people to respond. Errol.
Natalie Brand with the latest for us from the White House as we stand by for this update from the FBI on a potential suspect now being in custody in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And I want to provide you this news update, according to our CBS News senior White House reporter, Jennifer Jacobs. And that is that multiple sources are now telling CBS News there is a strong physical resemblance between the person law enforcement officials have in custody and an image of the person of interest that the FBI released in this case. That is according to our Jennifer Jacobs. CBS News senior coordinating producer of crime and public safety, Anna Schechter, is on the line with us as we continue to stand by for more information. Anna, just that detail from Jennifer that the person in custody and the images that we've all seen appear to have a strong resemblance certainly boosts the confidence that this very well could be the suspect.
That's right. But it is early days. But those images released last night gave a much clearer picture of who we are looking at in terms of the build. So when they're sitting there across from him and he is telling them, "I'm turning myself in," his father is there confirming that this is the individual who carried out this assassination. That is a whole lot of arrows pointing at this person as being that person. So that's what they're dealing with right now. They're executing search warrants, most likely. They want to go into his electronic communications. If they take his phone, they can then geolocate where he's been. They could probably even figure out if he was the person on that roof. All that information is going to go into this case that they want to build against this person.
And investigators also have to be careful as they continue this investigation against someone who, if this is the person, has made themselves appear to be extremely dangerous. It may have been, we don't know yet, politically motivated. You don't want a situation where the law enforcement officials are putting themselves in danger. Can you help us understand the challenge of investigators of sharing with the public as much as they can, but not jeopardizing the investigation or any of their agents still gathering evidence? Because it's what also stands out to me is they only released about, I think, 4 images showing a close-up, a side view, his frame, instead of hundreds of images and video clips.
That's right. You raise a really good point. We're in early days, and there's a crime scene to secure. They don't want evidence to get tainted and eventually be inadmissible to this case that they're building. So all of that has to be taken into account. At the same time, you have investigators out in the field still chasing down leads. But if this is the strongest lead, they're now going to divert their resources to identifying and interviewing as many people close to this person as possible. They want to build a case for the motive. All of that is underway. It's probably already underway, and why they feel so confident at this time. Of course, it is early days, and yesterday they put out incorrect information, so we want to be cautious.
If you're just joining us, it is just past 9:30 here on the East Coast in New York City. I'm Errol Barnett at the CBS News Broadcast Center in New York. We're standing by to hear from the FBI on news that a suspect is now in custody in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. This was announced by President Trump on Fox News approximately 90 minutes ago. Let's play you a portion of what the president said.
I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job. Getting somebody that you start off with absolutely nothing. And we started off with a clip that made him look like an ant that was almost useless. We just saw there was somebody up there. And so much work has been done over the last 2.5 days. It's amazing, actually, when you start off with that and then all of a sudden you get lucky or talent or whatever it is. But, I think we're in great shape. Mr. President. He's in custody.
And the president also went on to say that a person of faith, a minister who is close to a U.S. Marshal, effectively worked with the suspect's father in convincing the suspect to turn himself in. That man now at police headquarters. And according to our recent reporting, multiple sources say the person in custody bears a very strong resemblance to the images that the FBI shared within the past 24 hours. Anna Schechter is still on the line with us as we look at the press conference, which could begin momentarily. Anna, what do you make of the storyline as we hear it so far? Again, the president couched this with, I think, and these details could change. We're waiting to hear the official word. But if someone was able to convince this suspect's father to say, hey, turn yourself in, that would suggest he did not flee very far.
Well, not too far, not out of state, but he probably could have gotten a couple of 100 miles away. We don't know exactly where he turned himself in. It is not necessarily in that immediate campus area. In fact, more likely further away. Utah is a big place, so that suspect might have been able to gain access to a vehicle and drive as much as a few 100 miles away. So that we are still working to firm up exactly where the individual turns himself in with his father, who was obviously a part of this, according to Trump's statement. I just want to sort of pause for a moment for our viewers. This is just a stunning series of events this morning that are playing out. The President of the United States goes on a network television show with information about this potential assassin that he heard about 5 minutes before. So all of this just speaks to the frantic nature of this investigation, the fast-moving parts, and the very quick-to-go public rhetoric that was used, is being used by the White House, by the FBI. It's really just an unprecedented situation that we find ourselves in. There is a lot of circumstantial evidence and the physical resemblance, so law enforcement feels very confident this is the individual, but let's see, they're executing search warrants. They still want to go through this person's phone, create a timeline of where this person was. They can probably do that if he had a cell phone that was pinging to towers. So all of that is happening. All of that investigative process continues as we're talking right now and as we are waiting for the FBI to give the public more information.
Anna, you make a great point. I mean, since Wednesday, all of us have almost been witnessing this case and have felt as if we're inside the investigation room in real time from the moment the president announced Charlie Kirk had died to this morning as the president announces someone is in custody. And to your point, to my question about how far away did this guy really get, we have one source telling CBS News the suspect potentially taken into custody and questioned in southern Utah by U.S. Marshals. So that kind of confirms what you were suggesting, in that he likely did get away to some distance and was not necessarily in the vicinity. Again, we're waiting to hear the official word from the FBI as soon as this press availability gets underway. Anna, what then are your biggest questions that you hope the FBI answers in this press conference, because they cannot tell everything they know for fear of jeopardizing their investigation?
Well, I'm interested that they've delayed it a half an hour. It sounds like they're getting their ducks in a row, and they have likely made a decision at this point if they want to put the name out of the suspect. So I expect that we will likely get an identification, a name on this individual, and then I'm sure social media will blow up, as it has been since the moment of the assassination. You know, lots of theories swirling online. All of that has been going on and has actually factored into this investigation, frankly. And law enforcement has used the public in a way to get the word out. They needed those tips. I'm thinking also about that surveillance footage that we saw late last night, that was released late last night, where you see this individual racing across the roof with the backpack, climbing down. And what struck me was that this was very well planned. This individual knew exactly what he was planning to do. He carried out the assassination, and then he had his escape plan. He ran. He wasn't looking around, where do I go? He ran straight across that roof. He got down. He sort of was trotting like a slow run across the grass and then started walking. He clearly wanted to appear calm. This was a very well-planned assassination. A lot of thought went into that. That's what struck me when I was watching that video late last night. And he probably had a getaway plan as well. You saw him kind of waiting for traffic, wanting to cross that street, get access to that wooded area where he dropped the gun. It did seem that a fair amount of planning went into this, and that might be why he was able to gain access to a vehicle and drive away from the immediate area of the campus.
Anna Schechter is our senior coordinating producer for crime and public safety. We're standing by to hear more from the FBI as soon as a press availability begins there in Orem, Utah. You're looking at the podium set up and ready to go. We want to share with you more of what President Trump announced this morning on Fox News when he shared the development that a suspect in the assassination of Charlie Kirk was in custody.
I don't want to go too far. I'd like to tell you some stories at how it happened, but essentially somebody that was very close to him turned him in. And that happens when you had some of those good shots. Somebody is going to say, whether it's a parent or whatever, I'd rather not say right now. They're going to announce it today, sometime later, probably talk about that. And somebody that was very close to him said, that's him. And essentially went to the father and went to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic, by the way, and the person was involved with law enforcement, but was a person of faith, a minister, and brought him to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic, and the father convince the Sun this is it. And again, I'm always subject to be corrected, but I'm just giving you based on what I'm hearing. They'll give you a much more active. I just heard about it 5 minutes before I walked in, as I'm walking in.
And that was President Trump approximately 90 minutes ago.